Welcome to another episode of the AA Sports Podcast. My name's Art. My brother Alex is going to be with me today. We try to delay the recording as much as we could, but our schedules just didn't match up. So I'll be doing two podcasts by myself, and then Alex will be back with me for the Super Bowl preview. Again, if you guys enjoy the content, please consider subscribing, drop a like, leave a comment. Really appreciate it, and it helps out the podcast. So today we're going to be doing our Chiefs Road to Super Bowl 55 podcast. If you guys haven't already, please go back and check out our Buccaneers Road to the Super Bowl podcast, which we dropped on Tuesday, I believe. Let's get started with the Chiefs draft. The Chiefs drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round. For fantasy football, people were excited to see what Clyde Edwards-Helaire could do in Kansas City. I think the situation of being in a good offense and being a first round running back and the first running back off the board definitely gave people some excitement about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I think he had a fair season. He had a little over 200 touches, which I thought was a little bit low, but a couple injuries, Le'Veon Bell coming in, Darrell Williams actually having a pretty good season in his role, and of course Patrick Mahomes just slinging the ball everywhere. The Chiefs didn't really need Clyde to do, much more than he did. For the future, I think Clyde's going to be a great back though in Kansas City. As far as the offseason, the Chiefs didn't have as exciting of an offseason as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did. We saw the Buccaneers made a lot of moves. The Chiefs pretty much, stayed idle when it came to bringing in free agents. But Damian Williams opting out of the season was big, especially, like we said, for fantasy with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Damian Williams had, I would argue that he could have been or should have been the Super Bowl MVP. That's how good of a game he played. So when he opted out, I was a little, iffy about that. But it turns out them bringing in Le'Veon Bell and Clyde Edwards-Helaire playing well, didn't affect the Chiefs too much. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes signed his 10-year contract extension. I think the salary cap is the cap hit is like a percentage-based cap hit, which is, team-friendly. So, of course, the Chiefs, doing what they can for the team, but also making sure their star quarterback gets paid. Let's start with the regular season, weeks 1 through 4. Remember, no preseason this year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire really showed out in that first game against the Texans. Couldn't get in the end zone on the short yardage opportunities. I don't know if it was size or if maybe it was scheme, but you could tell throughout the season that they didn't go to him as much in those short yardage situations. Week 2 against the Chargers, Justin Herbert's debut. The Chiefs had to come from behind to win this game, but the Chiefs seemed to, always be in the game. And this is throughout the whole season. They just always seem to be in games, even if they were behind. They were always a threat to win, to score late, no matter how much time was left on the clock. Mahomes, Hill, and Kelsey just always had that team in it. Week 3 was a big game against the Ravens on Monday Night Football. And, of course, they just blew them out the water. They really didn't let the Ravens do anything. Lamar Jackson looked really bad. And Mahomes and Andy Reid just showed the brilliance that they have on offense. The brilliance that they have on offense. And then they beat the Patriots, which is no longer Tom Brady's Patriots, but Bill Belichick's Patriots, Cam Newton's Patriots. Which there's not much to say there. In week 5, they took a loss to the Raiders, which was very interesting. Shout out to all my Raider fans who took a victory lap that week. This game seemed like the Chiefs, weren't really in it. They just fell behind. They couldn't get anything going. The Raiders defense actually played very well that game, even though they gave up 32 points to the Chiefs. Early on, they really had held the Chiefs in check. The Raiders were able to pull away in that fourth quarter and giving the Chiefs their first loss. of the season. But then, of course, they come back and they don't lose until week 17, which we'll talk about in a little bit. They beat the Bills. I believe it was on Sunday Night Football. Big game. I still think the Bills are probably easily the second best team in the AFC and will be, for a couple more years. But the Chiefs were able to really really control them and keep them in check and score pretty much at will. The Broncos game, of course, the Broncos didn't have a great season, and the Jets beating the Jets 35-9. I believe it was after week 6, or it was after week. It was after week 6. No, after week 5, where Le'Veon Bell was signed. I was talking to Alex about this earlier. We didn't think Le'Veon Bell was going to be, as big of a asset with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, with Darrell Williams. But when Clyde went down, he ended up taking the majority of the running back snaps, and he's played well. He hasn't played great, but he's played well. And Alex talked about how Le'Veon Bell seems happy with Kansas City. And, I was telling him, it's easy when you're winning. When you're winning, it's easy to be happy and not complain. So, when he was with the Jets, of course, you're on a losing team and you're a superstar getting paid all this money. Taking all this criticism, that's difficult. That's why the frustrations. But even if you're not contributing much, if you're winning, there's not much to complain about. Moving on to weeks 9 through 13. The Chiefs had a week 10 bye after they beat the Panthers. Then they came out of the bye, beat the Raiders 35-31 in that crazy game where Mahomes drove down the field with like a minute 20 left or something like that. Touchdown pass, I think, to Kelsey at the end, if I'm not mistaken. And then week 12, they played the Buccaneers, who they'll be playing in the Super Bowl, of course. And, the score says 27-24, but I went back and watched this game, and it was not close. Like, the Buccaneers drove at the end or made a run in that fourth quarter to keep the game or to make the game close. But the Chiefs just got out to such a big lead. The Buccaneers weren't able to come back, but it is something to look out for, that the Buccaneers were able to make it close in that second half. And we saw the Buccaneers a couple times, like we talked about in that road to the Super Bowl, where in the second half they really came on, and I think we saw that in the playoffs also. Then, of course, the Chiefs beat the Broncos again. Last couple weeks of the season, beat the Dolphins 33-27. Big game against the Saints. They were able to outlast them 32-29. Beat the Falcons, and the loss to the Chargers, I put a little asterisk on it because a lot of their starters sat out. They didn't really play for much that week, so they ended up having 2 weeks off. The week 17 bye and the wild card bye. Of course, beat the Browns and the Bills. If you guys haven't already, go back and watch our recaps of the divisional round and the AFC conference championship against the Bills. A big game that stood out to us was, of course, the Browns game, overcoming Mahomes going down, the Browns driving, the Chiefs defense stepping up, and of course Andy Reid and Chad Henne coming through clutch in that fourth quarter to really seal the game for the Chiefs. Sorry, this is a little bit of a shorter podcast. Usually Alex and I are bouncing around asking questions and stuff, but it's hard when it's only one of us. So thank you guys for watching this episode of the A Sports Podcast, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Peace out.